not mentally.
Wait, what happened?
Oh, that's just how it is. That's
Okay.
Just cut it down.
Okay.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the final Tribal Council for Survivor, Catch Me If You Can, Game Changers, where Seb, Beth, and Andy have made as far as they can, and they are about to plead their case to the jury. And a little differently this season, they're doing opening speeches on here. Seb has elected to go first, followed by Beth, and then followed by Andy. The reverse for closing. There's a few notes. You have 7 minutes. Jurors will have 7 minutes. You have 5 minutes for closing. I'm going to come on camera when you have 1 minute left. I don't want to disrupt your flow or anything, but if you see me starting to give fingers, just know that means you have 10 seconds left, but I don't want to disrupt anyone's flow by typing messages or anything. So just know, yeah, that's what that'll mean. If everyone is ready, we'll go ahead and get started.
I believe Beth said she can't hear anything.
Okay.
I fixed it. Go ahead.
Okay.
All right, cool.
Okay. Then get started.
Okay, so we'll get everyone off stage. You said Seb. Seb, whenever you're ready.
All right. First off, I want to thank production for inviting me back for this normal-sized cast. And the production team has been amazing. The cast has been amazing. I want to thank the jurors for being here. I want to start a couple months ago. So, I was asked to play Radical by Kevin as a favor, and I went into Chicago not really knowing how Facebook words worked. I'm very much on the Discord side, and I was able to get far, make player of the season, MVP, and I was immediately asked back for the season. I didn't know if I had the mental capacity or the drain to come back into that season, especially coming from last season and being the MVP, to coming into this season with a potential target on my back. But right off the bat, I was able to find really good allies in Frank, Jesse, Beth, Molly, and Adrian, while also being social with Steve and Andy. I mean, right off the bat, I was able to make an alliance with Frank and Jesse called Catch Us If You Can. And I also secured a super tight bond in that round with Beth. Throughout the first 3 rounds of us constantly losing, I was always a vocal point in the votes itself. So when Kenzie, the gifts, it was very much a straightforward vote. But I remember very specifically, right after losing round 2, I pushed hard for Steve to go. And that's what happened. During this time, I had talked to multiple people off of multiple ledges in the pre-swap and the swap about voting off certain people who might be perceived as big threats, like Molly, like Frank, like Ian. And I think my game really starts strongly at the tethered round. This is kind of where I made a big impact on the game, or at least put myself in the spotlight. I was tethered with Tristan and thrown pretty much right away into an alliance with the rest of the people from Rewrite the Stars. They had experienced the tethered. And at this time, I felt like my conversations with Noah and Gianna were just a lot better than my conversations with AJ and Gabby. And I felt like AJ specifically only wanted to work with me because of my tethered partnered with Tristan. So I knew that I had very, very little influence to convince Tristan to vote AJ and Gabby. So I took the risk. I disagreed with the vote. I placed the first vote that I've received this season on myself. And so we go into the swap, and I get extremely lucky to be swapped with the alliance that was made pretty much right before the tether. The Connors, redheaded step-siblings, step-sisters, step-brothers, and we had a really strong force on that tribe. But I'd be ignorant to ignore the relationships that I had built during the tether round with people like Melissa, Alex, Gigi, Christopher, reuniting with Ian, Noah, and Sanam because of us playing last season. But we go into the swap, and I immediately try to strengthen my relationship with Ian. And I speak with Connie, and we have some game conversation to the point where last season I was viewed as a rogue agent, viewed as someone who was able to play both sides really well. So I took that into this season, especially in the swap. We built an alliance called Drop the Mics with me, Ian, Connie, and Molly. And me and Molly were very good with both Ian and Connie, and with the OG Taylors. And the Christopher vote was hard, but I was a big driving force to say, okay, you know what? We vote Christopher. If Connie thinks her name's out, she'll flush the idol. It didn't work that way, but it was me enforcing my voice and getting my thoughts out there. I'm spending way too much time on the swap. I do apologize. The Travis vote happened right after, and I vote publicly, and we go right into the biggest nightmare of my life with Christopher coming back in the battle back. Now, me and Christopher now, we were able to talk about the merge, but at that time, I didn't know how he felt about me. I didn't know how he felt about the OG Taylors. And so we go into this merge, and obviously the first vote for Tristan, I was very vocal for. I was very much saying, hey, he is someone who was talking on his OG tribe, on his swap tribe, about the words that I said after voting the way I did during the tether round. Speaking of the swap, at this time is when I used my power on Noah, or I talked to another person on the other swap tribe. I played it on Noah, and we built a really strong connection from there. Every round of this merge, I was able to not only create connections with people, but also use my influence, which we'll get to later on, pun intended, to really not necessarily get people to do what I want, but to push people in a certain direction. I was very vocal a lot of rounds. Even I think about, the Bree round where I heard Bree's name and I immediately went to her. We didn't have much of a game connection, but I went straight to her. Now, I was not very open with my connection with Molly to her, but playing that idol on Molly that round built me a little bit of more trust within myself and with her to trust me because I'm playing an idol on her. But we get through these next couple of rounds. I'm very vocal. I was one of the main people pushing for Alex to go. And then Frank goes. And I'm like, okay, what am I going to do? How do I regroup? So I create a plan, my 11 to 6 plan. Now, did my plan go exactly the way I wanted? No, but what I wanted was these 5 people to be voted out within the next 5 rounds. And that was Melissa, that was Christopher, that was Molly, that was Connie, and that was Sanam. And ultimately, Melissa did ask to be voted out at the final 11, but then I get this immense power. I'm able to become the influencer. I'm able to take that charge. I'm able to get this information from Sanam, and I'm able to take that. I'm able to get Christopher out. Next round, we find out it's a safety chain. I change my gears to eventually push Beth in a direction to pick Molly over Sanam. Now, I know that Beth and Molly were close, but as well, I knew that Sanam had her merge idol. I told her not to play it. At this point, I'm going to be able to talk about a lot. I know that this has been a very long game, but by the end of the final 5, I had 3-person groups in the end with me to secure my spot here. And I'll be able to answer more questions later. I'm so sorry.
Okay, and next up is Beth. Where'd she
right.
go?
She's here.
Oh, okay, there she is. Okay, cool.
Okay, Beth, are you able to hear us?
That looks like a no.
Technology, you gotta love it.
Even Dan can't figure it out.
All right. I guess she left. I guess she left to come back. Let's see.
Okay, we'll wait.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see. Beth, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay. With that, okay, so go ahead.
Okay, give me 1 second. Okay. All right. What's up, everyone? Some of you haven't seen in a while, but let's get straight into it. My goal tonight is to show you why I deserve your vote to win this game. I won't say I played a perfect game, but it was damn near perfect. Once the game started, after I talked to everyone, I realized that Seb was in the center. Everyone told me that they relied and trusted Seb the most. So what did I do? I went straight to him and I solidified my alliance with him on day one. I took the loudest person in the game and attached him to me. Not to hitch a ride to the end, but so that I could use his showiness as a shield. Luckily for me, it developed into a very good friendship and a working relationship. While I was being kind of a villain throughout the game, I knew I could use Seb and everyone else around me to take the heat off of me. We both knew that we vibed well with Frank. So we made a 3-person alliance with Frank. And from there, we created the Taylor 5, which after merge, it became very vital to my game. And votes like Alex, Tristan, and Bree. The alliance was perfect for me because even though I had a huge say within the alliance, everyone else had the bigger targets on him outside of it. In addition to the alliance with Frank and Seb, inside that group, I also had an alliance with Andy and Molly because we knew that Seb and Frank were dangerous. And if things turned south to me, I was in on both sides, so I was good there. I solidified my relationship with Molly because, I mean, she's Molly. She's great. And she was everyone's target. So she was a good shield and a friend for me. I also made a girls' alliance after we swapped with Molly and Connie. So I could get a little trust with Connie and build up a game plan there. And even though sometimes Connie only talked to Molly, I still knew what was going on in Connie's head most of the time because of our relationship there. And then there was Dan. Very early merge, I generally connected with him. So when his name was out, I shut it down immediately as soon as I could. Firstly, because I liked him, but then again, I recognized that he was someone I could trust moving forward because he really didn't have anyone and someone who would be on my side. And from there, I created a 3-person alliance with me, him, and Seb. We all had different relationships, so we kind of knew where the votes were going within that alliance. And then Noah approached me with an alliance with him and Seb as well. And I really wanted to work with that alliance, but I knew at the end of the day that Noah's underdog game was great. And but it gave me a lot of insight of also where the votes were on Noah's side of the game. Due to my connections and having targets around me, my name was only brought up like once to my knowledge. That being said, my allies and the people I surrounded myself with shut that down. But rather than targeting the person who said my name, which I found out later was Sanam, I went straight to her and I formed a bond and a connection there to build trust up so it wouldn't happen again. I knew when I had to speak up, to be honest, and make amends with other players. Like once Chris came back into the game, I knew that I had to rebuild that relationship. And I was so happy to work with him moving further and getting to know him better. I voted Connie when she played her idol. So I knew I had to go to her, be honest about my feelings, tell her why I voted for her, and reconcile that relationship to the point where I could keep her another round. And we ended up voting out a bigger threat in Ian. I really loved Ian, by the way. And then, so I voted the next round. I wanted to vote with Connie because she felt like an outcast. So I did vote for Noah that round. but I let it be believed that it was Andy's name to keep the heat off of me, while supporting Connie as well. At this point in the game, I didn't want Seb looking closely at my game or anyone else. So I pitched a plan to Andy that he could go to Noah and make a plan to see if Noah would vote out Seb. And successfully, he did go tell Seb this plan. That took any and all odds out for me, and unfortunately onto Andy. That was a crucial move in my end game. The final four was a struggle for me because I loved everyone there, and I did not want to vote. So what I did is I went to my confessional and asked what would happen if there was a tie. And I knew that I had the relationships in that final four where it wouldn't be me. There wasn't a vote on me. So I voted with Andy to vote for Dan. So to force him into fire. My relationship with Dan was so strong, and he was a very important part of my journey in this game. And as corny as it sounds, he did mention that he wanted something on his resume. So I gave him fire, and unfortunately it did not work. Although Seb won immunity that round, I did have the ability to control that vote. I can't wait to talk to all of you and hear your questions and hopefully earn your vote in the end.
All right, awesome. So next up, we go ahead and we have Andy.
All right. Well, first of all, I just want to say thank you to everybody on production and everybody in the game and jurors, and thanks for listening to each of our cases. Hopefully, everybody's coming in with an open mind because I think all three of us have played really solid games. And I'm looking forward to sharing those things with you. I've played these games before. We all have, for the most part. So I knew coming in that Survivor isn't ever just purely strategy. The game's emotional. You can prepare for different things in the game, blindsides, alliances, advantages. But it's harder to prepare for the real relationships that you feel while you're actually in it. I think all of us experience that when we play. Before I say anything about my strategy, I just want to acknowledge that I know that there's people on the jury who are probably frustrated with me, or even maybe hurt or disappointed by any decisions that I made, and that's valid. I understand it. I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I played a perfectly honest or perfectly loyal game because I didn't. There's times where I lied. There's times where I withheld information. I reassured people many times when I knew there was a chance I would eventually vote differently. But I also want people to know those decisions were never just casual decisions for me. The relationships that were built in the game were real to me, even when the strategy became complicated. And honestly, a lot of my games started before the merge. And so early on, I was on the good old Taylor tribe, and we had a really rough start. And pretty quickly, a group of 5 of us formed that jokingly referred to ourselves as Connor's redheaded stepchildren. That was me and Beth and Frank and Seb and Molly. And so the reason why we called ourselves Connor's redheaded stepchildren, you guys never got to see this, but we thought about mutinying over to Connor because we were so tired of losing on Taylor. And so that's where that name came from. And we thought about doing that. Even though we started from a difficult position, the 5 of us stayed connected throughout the game. We trusted each other. We shared information. We stayed pretty strategically grounded through a lot of chaos. And when you play with good, smart people that you can trust, like, you can get through all the noise and chaos. And I think that helped us quite a bit. And sitting here now, I think it says a lot that 3 of us from that group are sitting at Final Tribal tonight, despite how rough our starting position was. I also think swap ended up being really important for my game. I stayed loyal to that core group, and we were fortunate that all 5 of us were there. But I think where it became a little more important is that I was able to build some stronger individual relationships with Connie and Ian. Later in the game, even, I think there were some people that perceived that there was some kind of secret alliance between me and Connie and Ian, because we were really, I had done enough work to position myself individually with both of them that it looked like we were a whole lot closer than I think we actually were. And there was never a group of us three. I had just done the work to position myself really well with them both individually. I listened to them, spent time with them. And I think that really describes my game overall. A lot of what I did was relationship based rather than flashy. It was based more on psychology than big moves. Coming into Merge, my name was one of the loudest names being discussed as soon as we came into Merge. And it very easily could have been me. And honestly, that's when it became kind of the biggest turning point in my game, because I realized I had two choices. I could either scramble and be loud and become more threatening, or I could settle in socially, listen carefully, and become more intentional about how I positioned myself moving forward. And that's the direction I chose, was to become more intentional about how I was positioned. From that point forward, I think adaptability became really the biggest strength of my game. I spent a lot of time trying to understand where people were, both emotionally and strategically, and did that before I decided how I needed to move. I worked really hard to stay connected socially enough that information consistently came back to me throughout the game. If people were talking about me, I always heard about it. If plans were shifting, I usually knew. If people were frustrated or considering alternative plans, I was usually involved in many of those conversations, and that awareness allowed me to adjust constantly without becoming the obvious target again. And after being literally one of the loudest merge targets, I got 2 votes at the merge and didn't receive any more votes until I received 2 at the final 4. So I was very much being considered a target early on in merge, and found a way to become not a target and position myself in a way where my threat management allowed me to not be considered a target any further. So, for example, we get to touchy subjects, and oftentimes when we get to touchy subjects, I find myself being answered as villain, likely to win, strategic, all these different things. And I was only selected for one thing, and it wasn't a question that could have possibly had me targeted as a threat. Even my own answers during that challenge were careful, because I didn't want to expose how I viewed people strategically. I didn't want to damage any relationships that I still needed. And to me, that really reflected that my threat management was working. And while some of my votes occasionally might look incorrect, there's only 3 times in the game where I voted quote unquote incorrectly. But those were votes that allowed me to explain my strategy as well. The Steve vote, I very early on could have found myself at the bottom of the merge. I think I gelled enough with a few people that we were able to create that 5, but I voted with Steve instead of against Steve. The Molly vote, I didn't vote for Molly. However, Molly going somewhat helped a lot of our games because she was a big threat.
1 minute left.
But I very much intentionally voted for somebody who I didn't think was going that round. The Frank vote, same thing. I voted for somebody with Frank that I didn't think was going that round, and I knew beforehand who I thought was going to be going. My game wasn't flashy, it wasn't dominant, but it was very intentional. And I can honestly say I tried to play thoughtfully, relationally, and intentionally from beginning to end. I look forward to answering any questions you might have, and I hope that my game's worthy of your vote. Thanks.
All right. Well, opening speech is over, but now we bring in our first juror to speak. We have Frank.
What's up, everybody? Congratulations. You guys look lovely. What's up, you Connor's redheaded stepchildren? How we doing? So first of all, I want to say it's awesome that you guys are all here. Congrats. I missed Seb's speech because technical difficulties. I missed part of Beth's and I missed part of Andy's. So if I ask a question that's a little redundant, I apologize. So I kind of want to just give a spiel about, give you a heads up or the jury's kind of given, because you guys were all my allies at some point. So I'll start with Seb. A lot of people see it as your game to lose, but don't want you to get your head held high. You know, easily things can change. But I think you played an awesome game, brother. I was clocking you kind of towards where I went out, so it's probably a good thing I went out when I did for you. But I want to say I had a blast getting to know you and working with you this game. So my biggest question for you is, what's one thing that you wish you could have changed throughout the game, and if it was a mistake or something that you wish you would have done yourself?
I think for me, the biggest regret or something I wish I would change is just the way I reacted to certain votes. So the three times that I was left out, quote unquote, left out of the votes was the round you left, the round Molly left, and during the final four. But even then, the final four, I did not care who went to the end with me. Your vote specifically, I was very upset about just because I was, but I also understood because I was very open with a lot of people about how I felt about you. I was very vocal with pushing your name away from people when it was being pushed in earlier rounds. So I understood why I was left out of that vote. I was very upset about the Molly vote, not because I didn't want her to go. Kind of quite the contrary. I told both Ian and Noah that that was a move that was going to be made. Um, it was more so just the idea of placing trust in certain people and then it not being reciprocated, which I know I could be called a hypocrite because I did cut quite a few people's throats in this game and I was called a villain. But it ultimately led for me to be able to say, hey, you know what? Connie doesn't need to go at Final Seven like I originally wanted. Ian could go in this spot, which, because at this point, once Ian goes, Noah becomes just a tiny bit closer to me than he does to anyone else.
Right. Okay. Again, I had a blast playing with your brother. We connected on many levels, and I appreciate everything that we did throughout the game. All right, Beth. A lot of perspective from the jury, not all of them, but that seemed that you were kind of in the second chair to Seb. So again, I missed your speech, and I apologize for that. My biggest question is, how do you differentiate your game from Seb's? Like, what's your biggest moves that kind of deviate from him?
Beth, we unfortunately cannot hear you.
All right, good. I thought it was just me. I was just gonna go back and watch it.
We have paused your time, Frank. We don't know what's
Okay,
StreamYard is not giving us these issues before. I don't know what's going on this season.
no
Can you hear
problem.
me now?
You are
Yes.
good, Beth. Yes.
Okay. So me and Seb worked this game really closely together. I don't want everybody to think that this is Seb's game. Seb played amazingly, but I also played great. I think where I differentiated with Seb is that I took Dan and put him under my wing. I brought him into our alliance and I ran with that. I also talked to a lot of other people as well, and I kept my threat level lower. Like you said, everybody thinks that I was second chair to Seb, but I ran a lot of these things with him, not underneath him. So, as it does say, like I said in my speech, and I know you didn't see it, I didn't have to play flashy, but I played loyal to everyone, and I got here regardless of what they think, honestly.
Um, like I said, I enjoy all three of you guys. We played the game pretty much from start to finish until I went out. So the fact that you three are here is it's mind-boggling to me. I thought two of you guys were gonna follow me as soon as I left. The fact that it didn't happen, I was stunned. But thank you for answering my question, Beth. I am gonna go back and rewatch your speech, so don't worry about that. Same thing with you, Andy and Seb, the parts I missed.
Yeah.
All right, so Andy, all right, so you're my guy. Like
Yep.
we get each other pretty easily. Like we don't have to have these long conversations. We just kind of like when we talk, we make our time matter. We don't need all day to talk to each other. But I do want to give you the input that some people felt your social game was lacking with them. Um, and I think that might be your biggest hurdle within tonight.
Yeah.
So I just want to give you the chance to explain why it was difficult for you to maybe have these social relationships with some of the other jury members.
I would say that as we got further into the merge, that my social relationships were a whole lot more established than they were early on. So I think there's probably people early on in the merge who I wasn't on tribes with early on in the game that we really never got to connect. When we did connect, it stayed fairly shallow, and largely a lot of that, even though it looks passive, was very intentional on my part because I know that I'm the type that can spread myself too thin. And that usually allows my target level to be raised way higher because people go, oh, he's connected to everybody. I very much intentionally said, okay, I am going to still be friendly while not promising the world to too many people and causing myself to be in a situation where more people feel hurt when they go. And therefore, I'm labeled as a villain. I've been backstabbing people. And so it wasn't intentionally that I didn't care about connecting with those people as much as it was very intentional that I didn't spread myself out as thin as I would usually.
Okay. My time is up. I'm about to leave. I just want to say I wish I had 3 votes to give to each of you guys. I do not. So may the best person win. And I had a blast playing with each and every one of you guys. Good luck.
All right. We're set a timer, but next we have Tristan. Oop. Why is it?
Oh, hey guys.
Hi.
Good to see you guys. It's been a while. So, not gonna lie, I'm still kind of sad about the tribal I went out. It's not so much that I got voted out, it's just like how quickly I thought it was kind of unnecessary. But you know what? That's part of the game. So, I'm okay. So, my first question would go to Andy. So, Andy, you and I have never really gotten a chance to talk at all during the game. So, I guess my question is, why should I vote for you?
Yeah, I'd say that there's multiple times in multiple games so far where I have reached out very heartfelt to you and even did in this game to say I really see a reason for us to work together, and I feel like I don't get anything back. I do reach out to you and feel like I'm never responded to. I think the reason why I am here is largely because the vote that you did go out, I was the name that was being said the most before everybody switched the name to being you. And I think that since that point, I adapted so much socially and positionally that it enabled me to not have to win things and have things in order to be able to get here while still not playing passively. And so I think I did enough with threat management and with social positioning that it warrants being considered for a vote. As far as the way you and I communicate, I go back and watch yesterday's rites of passage because I said, man, I always try to reach out and work with Tristan because I know Tristan is a loyal ally, and I've just never felt like it's been reciprocated.
Okay, I like that. That's a good answer. By the way, I was going to have this season where I worry less about challenges and more about social relationships, but I didn't get the chance to do that because I was blindsided, which brings me to Beth. Beth, I love you, and you and I did have to get to talk a little bit, not as much, obviously. So, um, Frank almost kind of asked a question similar to what I was going to, but my question to you is, what part of your game differentiates you from the boys?
Well, I'm a girl, but other than that, um, I feel like the boys made them. I don't want to call them boys; they're men. I feel like the men made themselves more of a target than I did, and I underplayed. I underplayed my targetness. I don't think that's a word, but I underplayed my threat level with them. Like I made a lot of decisions within our group and I let them go out and make it known. I let them go make the big targets on themselves. Well, I just chilled. And honestly, if that makes me a second chair, I mean, that's fine. But I had a big role in this game as well. And they just were bigger targets than I was. What's wrong with this computer? Can y'all hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, I don't know what's going on. But yeah, like I said, I was able to play more under the radar than they were and get myself here with not a single vote and win challenges, 3 of them. I guess I just downplayed my threat level a lot more than they did.
Well, that's still very impressive. So good job on that. Seb, you and we were partners during the tether round, and as soon as I was out, I was like, I want you to get to the end. However, that does not mean you have my vote yet, because during during the tether round, I asked you right before the tribal what you wanted to do, and the only thing I remember was you said that the majority was on Noah and Gianna. You did not say that you wanted to vote for AJ and Gabby. Well, of course, I didn't really want to do that because I made a promise with them. But so I can understand why you disagreed with the vote. But the problem I have is after that tribal, you decided to explain why you disagreed, and it inadvertently kind of threw me under the bus. So I guess my question to you is, what was your goal in doing that? Like, did you just not know that it was kind of throwing me under the bus?
So yeah, I've actually been waiting all season, like because post your vote, like when a little bit before you got voted out, I had heard that you were very upset with the way that I went about the vote, and to that I say, I didn't mean to intentionally throw you. In fact, I was trying to do the complete opposite. I wanted people to say, "Hey, you know what? Seb did that. Tristan did not. Tristan did not have a hand in voting for himself and Seb." I wanted it to make you be like, hey, listen, guys, this was all me. Like, I did this. I made the effort to place the self vote on us. Tristan did what he had told people he was going to do. And my logic was, we are about to swap. Like, Tristan's going to go into this tribe and have to explain that the vote didn't, like, that he technically didn't vote the way he was supposed to. My goal in that was saying, okay, Tristan could go in with kind of like a fresh palette, going and explain to the people in that tethered alliance, hey, I did what I was supposed to. Seb was the one who fucked me over. Seb was the one who screwed me over. And that's why when I did hear that you were upset about it, I was like, this makes no sense to me because I did everything in my power to take full ownership on this self vote. So I do apologize if you did feel like it was me trying to throw you under the bus, because that was the complete opposite intention of what I had in that moment.
Okay, I understand that. Thank you very much for that. Well, I gotta say, you guys, congrats. You know, making the final 3 is very hard to do, especially in a season like this. Like, this is not just returning players, this is game changers. You guys outlasted 24 game changers. So, you all should be very proud because you all did something to be sitting right here at the end. And whichever one of you wins, you deserve it. And even if you don't win, you know what? Just be happy about the fact that you guys beat all the other game changers. So good luck to you guys. And like I always say, may the best player win.
All right. Thank you so much, Tristan. Next up, we are bringing on Dan.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me? Yes. Hello. First of all, congrats to all 3 of you. Obviously, I'll get to that. Question for you, and kind of like another quick question for all of you. Oh, can you not hear me?
Dan,
Yeah, Dan, I'm sorry, you're super laggy right now. We will pause your time for the time being until you're able to.
Okay, is this better?
Yes, on my end.
Okay, sorry,
Yeah,
I had my
we can hear you.
Bluetooth on and it did not work very well. Yeah, so I guess my first question, I'll start with Sab, just because I feel like kind of building off of Noah's a little bit, but it kind of seemed like there were a couple instances where you had these big grand moments at tribal council, but then like the person or the people that it affected weren't didn't know what was happening. It's like example with the Noah situation, like you would have maybe just told him beforehand that that's kind of what you were thinking, then and then so that's my question is like, was there a strategy in that? Like, were you kind of trying to play things up at tribal to play a flashier game?
I mean, that's just, I came into this game saying, fuck it, we ball. Shout out to Julia Rowe. At the end of the day, this is game changers. I'm a flashy person in general, and that's just because I consider myself a very outgoing person, someone who's just tries to find the light in certain situations. That's why at tribals I try to make jokes. That's why in certain alliance calls when it gets quiet, I'm like, so how about that weather? But I do think that certain things were played up because I think, and it was brought up that in regards to with Beth, I felt like Beth was very much playing under the radar in the stuff that we did together. But I was very much the flashy person, and I very much played up to that. And yeah, there were definitely people that I lied to, but there were definitely people that I was forward with. And I used the forwardness so that when I did have to lie to people, it didn't hurt as much. And I know that's, not the way that anyone wants to hear it, but it eventually benefited me in the game. Because I think about specifically with the vote you're talking about, with including Noah into the Ian vote. And to that I say, it felt I had the same logic that Noah had the round prior to leaving me out of the Molly vote, which was, would you have really done it? Would you have done this if we included you on this vote? Like Ian had just saved you at that point, and that was kind of the same logic that Noah had with me in the Molly vote about, hey, you played an idol on her. Hey, you've been close to her all game. Would you have actually done it? Would you have actually done it? And I think that the little bit of trust that I had built in with Noah at that time was able to justify and have Noah, leave it evenly, kind of lower that, okay, you know what, I understand, same logic. I know I should have let Noah in on the plan, but at the same time, I knew how close Noah and Ian were at that specific point in the game. And yeah, I would have done nothing, in my opinion, but backfire on me.
Dan, can you hear us?
This app sucks.
Sorry, I'm having audio issues now too. 1 second.
Are you able to hear me, Dan?
Okay, can you guys hear me still?
Yes.
Okay. I don't know if I can hear you, but I'll just watch it back. And then Andy, I guess mine's kind of follow up to Tristan's slash with a little twist. So we weren't super close in the game. We didn't talk a ton. I feel like we got along great and just fine, but we were never working super closely together. So I guess kind of to spin Tristan's question around, as Beth and Seb being people that I was working really closely with, why should I not vote one of them?
I would say that the difference between my game and Seb's, and all due respect, they both played incredible games. I think that I did a little better personally with threat management. He did a lot better with a lot of other things. I think that it's a testament to Seb that he's here regardless of his threat level, because that's a well done thing. I just feel like I intentionally kept my threat level lower so that I'd have a few more options coming down the stretch. With Beth, I would say that the only difference between me and Beth is I think Beth closed doors with some people occasionally, either by being upset or whatever it was. I think there were some people that Beth knew she was never going to really talk to, work with, have much relationship with in the game. And I tried to make sure that my options were always open because I like to play in a way that everyone feels like they need me here because it could help their game. And so I think I very intentionally built the relationships I needed to that kept me insulated and kept my threat level really low.
Awesome, thank you. Apparently, I can only do video or audio. So, Beth, I guess my question for you, in regard to the fire making decision, I will say I was not very happy with you after that happened. Just because I kind of felt like you never mentioned to me like the thought of putting me in fire to build my resume. Like if that were the truth of what you actually wanted to do, I would have thought you would have come to me and said, hey, do you want to do this even? Or even pitching it as maybe it'd be a good idea if I did it, but it kind of just felt like you made that decision for me at the last minute. And I was not mentally prepared for it. I know we talked all day about Andy going. So I just kind of wanted to understand that a little bit better and like what the strategy was behind it, maybe.
Okay, Jay, can I answer him?
Yes, go ahead and answer him.
Okay, so my strategy behind that is I didn't tell anyone that I was doing that. I didn't tell Seb. I didn't tell Andy. I told Andy that more than likely I was voting for him. My thought process behind that is that me and you worked very like closely together the entire game, and you had mentioned wanting to do that. And at the same point, I really did not want to vote for Andy because me and Andy had been working hand in hand as well. So I thought I could really shoot two birds with one stone, not have to vote out Andy and give you the opportunity to build your resume, have something to talk about at Final Tribal, because you had mentioned that it's going to be very hard to sell your story. So I wanted to give you a story to be able to tell.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you all for your answers and good luck tonight.
All right. So as we say goodbye to Dan, I'm just going to cut in and say that it is pretty clear at this point that we have been using StreamYard for seasons, but we have not seemed to have this issue until this season. And just to make sure the rest of FTC is ran fairly, we will be exiting off of StreamYard and moving the rest of this finale over to Zoom. The vote reveal will take place on StreamYard just because we want to be able to see everyone's reactions and things like that, but the rest of the finale will be over onto there. So we will be temporarily ending the finale for just a couple minutes and we will send you guys back over there. So again, apologies for the connections. We've never had this issue before, but this is just a decision that we have made considering it has been such a consistent problem. So with
I
that
blame
said,
Molly.
goodbye to YouTube and Facebook for now.